Amanda here. Welcome to the study guide series for Exam 2, Part 6. And we are going to be talking about using drama in reading. So I actually enjoy theater and drama stuff. It's super fun and it's super entertaining. So this is actually something that I feel like a lot of teachers should do, but they tend not to. I don't know if it's because they're kind of embarrassed to do it, or they just don't know the proper ways to do it, and that's okay. But I feel like every teacher at least should try this all the time, especially in the younger grades, because just sitting there and reading a book to little kids doesn't really do much. It doesn't really get them enthusiastic. That's just them knowing that, hey, she's going to read us a book today. So, how can we use drama in reading? So, one way you can use drama in reading is maybe using different voices to match the characters you're going to be discussing. For example, we were doing a reading practice with my professor, and it was talking about honeybees or something like that, and one column on one side he would read, and the other column a student would read. So the side that he was reading was the worker bee. The worker bee was on one side, and then on the other side it was the queen bee. So the worker bee, when the teacher would do it, he would sound kind of sad, like angry, frustrated, annoyed, tired sometimes, because he's a worker bee. He works hard every day. While if you were the queen bee, or if you decided to read for the queen bee, you are more majestic. You would have an English accent, you're prim, you're proper. So you kind of use the different voices to differentiate between the different characters. And you can even do this in other books, like Brown Bear. When you're going through all the different animals, you can do different voices for those characters. One example my teacher even used was Caps for Sale. He gave the peddler a really funny voice when he was speaking as the peddler, when it was the peddler's turn to talk. So that's one way. Another way you can do this is by using props. So again, when my professor used Caps for Sale, unfortunately he didn't have caps, so he bought all these masks that matched the colors of the different caps that the peddler would put on his head. And it was actually really funny, and it was really entertaining, even though I'm like 22 right now, and that's more like for children, but still, it's engaging. The fact that it's like, hey, the teacher has caps on his head, or in his case, because of COVID, it was masks, but still, he had something on his head, and it relates to the story because they're the same exact colors, or it's the same exact pattern. So definitely using props. Get creative with that, obviously. Be reasonable if you do decide to use props. Try to find something in your closet first before you go out and start buying everything. Or go to the Dollar Tree, because Dollar Tree has everything for $1. But be mindful when you use props, because I know that one kind of is a little tricky, because sometimes it does get expensive. But for the sake of the students, to keep them engaged, it is probably the most benefiting and beneficial thing to use when during the reading time. Another one that you can use for drama in reading, or something that you can do, is use student actors. So during the reading, what the teacher did was he assigned a student as a peddler, and then he assigned the rest of the class, so nobody was left out, to be the monkeys. And it was actually really fun. So it's like when the peddler would speak, then the student would pretend they were talking. And then if you want, you could do this in the classroom. When it's time for the peddler to speak, you can actually point to the line, and the student could make up their own voices as well and go and be that character. And then when the action parts came in, and the peddler was doing one thing. That student who was assigned as the peddler was doing the actions, and then when it was time for the monkeys to react, and the monkeys were doing something. So it was really fun, and it just got everybody engaged in the story, and nobody felt left out. So it wasn't like, okay, everybody can do it except for like these 3 people. So everybody was included in some way, and the teacher was the narrator of the story, so he was telling the story while we just acted out. And then last but not least, be excited to read. Have some enthusiasm when you're reading. Not just use like funny voices or props or student actors. Actually be excited to read with your kids. If you are not excited to read, then don't expect your students to be excited to read as well. It's kind of a two-way street. If you expect your students to do well, then have high expectations for them. If you expect your students to be excited about reading, then you as the teacher need to be excited about reading. If you're not excited about reading, then your students are going to pick up on that, and they're not going to be as excited to read either. So those are just 4 of the different ways that I feel drama can be used in reading. Get creative. If you want to even go above and beyond, maybe you can even put on your own class play and invite parents to come and have them watch the students act out the story themselves in a live play version of whatever it is that they're going to be reading. And and just get excited, be creative, and have fun. Don't be afraid to have fun. Because if you don't, then your students are definitely not going to be paying attention, and they'll be bored easily. Other than that, that is using drama in reading, and I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.